By 2:30 p.m., the people were restless and nervous, not realizing what was happening, and why it took so long. Wanyanyekova was the last to exit the tent as the crowd slowly moved toward them. Sorry to have taken so long, but there was much to discuss and consider. Pausing for a moment, he looked down at his tablet. I will form 3 groups of people. In the first group, please stand behind Daniel. Daniel raised his hand. The second behind Grace. Grace raised her hand. And the last group, please stand behind Obe. Obe raised his hand. Wanyanyekevu, clearing his throat. Now if I call your name, stand behind Daniel. Willie, Akoko, Akoja, Larry, Haru. 13 women and 50 men moved behind Daniel, and Daniel walked a few yards to make room for the second group. Wanyanyekevu read off the names. These are the people to stand behind Grace. Darlene, Shandaki, Hanul, Tammy, and Chimaka. A group of 2 women and 3 men who were drug addicts. Wanyanyekevu wasn't sure of because of their behavior or loyalty because drugs were their god. Wanyanyekevu then looked at the rest and said, aloud so everyone could hear as Obe walked toward them. The remaining people will go behind Obe, and this group must leave us, and I ask those of you who are departing us today to promise me, you will not let anyone know of our whereabouts. And they lied. Lowering his head for a second, he continued, to you who remain with us, all drugs and alcohol will leave with them. If any one of you would like to go with them, I will not stop you. 3 people from Grace's group, Shandaki, Hanul, Tammy, moved toward the line and joined the crowd, leaving Darlene behind. Darlene, please join Daniel's group. He looked at Daniel. 64 strong. Wanyanyekevu said as he called out the names as they boarded the ship. Ho Hans, Megan, Kyungsoon, Azza, Odahingam. The total of men was 38 men and a prostitute. Mercy, Elijah, and Jome stood by with all the drugs and alcohol and handed to them as they boarded the ship. As the ship took off, Wanyanyekevu said to the rest of the people, please understand me, for I am not a man of judgment, but a servant of Sabaoth. The men and women who are about to leave are power-hungry people, who cannot or will not change their ways, evil men who have lied to me, for I can discern a man's heart, and they are evil. And the last 3 were too far gone on drugs, genetically engineered for that purpose. I was uncertain for a moment, but they wanted nothing else. Such selfishness will hinder us from seeking Sabaoth's light. I cannot let them, just let them go. Because they are dangerous to us all. For they seek power and rewards from earth and not Sabaoth, but you all will receive power from Sabaoth before you leave this place. I also imagine that you knew them better than I, and how evil they were. He turns to Grace, Joy, Jonathan, and Alicia and shakes his head. The crowd was in awe as they looked at the group. Grace ran in place, and every second she would touch Joy. You could hear the people say, how can anyone run that fast? Joy started letting out spares of lighting. Elijah turned to Jonathan, putting up his force field. Whenever you are ready. Jonathan held up 5 fingers, slowly counting down to 1. On the count of 1, Joy had generated enough energy and shot a bolt of lightning toward Elijah, reflecting the electrical current toward the spaceship, which was now 3 miles away. It could be seen in the distance as a ball of fire. The people bowed down in fear. Wanyanyekevu shouted, stand! And fear not, for you too shall receive your power of Sabaoth. A sad Wanyanyekevu said to the crowd, the last order of the day, we must be divided into groups by physical characteristics, but later, after your gifts are manifested, you will be divided by spiritual characteristics. Wanyanyekevu picked the additional men, making sure that Neriglissar was one of them to train, and the rest took 7 people under their belts. Wanyanyekevu instructed Elisha, Jonathan, and their group to create another training facility and a place to dine and sleep quarters. Each person and their group would alternate operating and maintaining each facility and security around the perimeter. It took 2 weeks to build the desired training facility before training started.